Washington Post, 1/14/07. A community of people who believe the government is beaming voices into their minds may be crazy, but the Pentagon has pursued a weapon that can do just that. In 2002, the Air Force Research Laboratory patented precisely such a technology, using microwaves to send words into someone's head. The patent was based on human experimentation in October 1994 at the Air Force Lab. The official U.S. Air Force position on that there is no non-thermal effects of microwaves yet. The military's use of weapons to employ electromagnetic radiation to create pain is well known. In 2001, the Pentagon declassified one element of research, the active denial system, a weapon that uses electromagnetic radiation to heat skin and create an intense burning. Remember that secret projects within the military and other branches of the government are almost always at least a decade ahead of public research. 9/12/2006, MSNBC, Associated Press, non-lethal weapons touted for use on citizens. Non-lethal weapons such as high-powered microwave devices should be used on American citizens in crowd-controlled situations before being used on the battlefield, the Air Force Secretary said Tuesday. The object is basically public relations. Domestic use would make it easier to avoid questions from others about possible safety considerations, said Secretary Michael Wayne. If we're not willing to use it here against our fellow citizens, then we should not be willing to use it in a wartime situation, said Wayne. The government has been developing potentially lethal, non-lethal weapons for decades, as evidenced by released Freedom of Information Act documentation, and what Secretary Wayne fails to recognize is that it's against the law to experiment with torture weapons on American citizens, and they are all potentially lethal. BBC News, March 12, 2003, scientists developed brain chip. A brain chip could be used to replace the memory of Alzheimer's patients. Fox News, March 29, 2006, brain cells fused with computer chips. European researchers have developed a neurochip in which living brain cells and silicone circuits are coupled together. The achievement could one day enable the creation of sophisticated neural prosthesis to treat neurological disorders, or the development of organic computers that crunch numbers using living neurons. To create the neurochip, researchers squeezed more than 16,000 electronic transistors and hundreds of capacitors into a silicone chip just 1 millimeter square in size. They used special proteins found in the brain to glue the brain cells called neurons into the chip. However, the proteins acted as more than just a simple adhesive. They also provided a link between ionic channels and the neurons and semiconductors material in a way that neural electrical signals could be passed to the silicone chip, said study team member Sanfino Basilelli from the University of Purdue in Italy. The proteins allow the neurochip's electronic components and its living cells to communicate with each other. 1/26/2005, MSNBC, Associated Press, a remote control that controls humans, made in Japan. Prepare to be remotely controlled. I was, stated the reporter. Just imagine being rendered the rough equivalent to a radio-controlled car. The technology is called galvanic vestibular stimulation. Japanese top telephone company says it's developing the technology to perhaps make video games more realistic. When more sinister applications come to mind to this reporter, I can envision it being added to the military's arsenal of so-called non-lethal weapons. 5/11/2006, Sacramento Bee, leading newspaper for California's capital city. Orwellian microchips as minute as a grain of sand identify and track products, even lost children at theme parks. They're being implanted in humans to alert hospitals about medical conditions. How can a locator chip do that? Instat, a high-tech research firm, reports that more than 1 billion RFID chips were made last year and predicts that by 2010 the number will increase to 33 billion. The Food and Drug Administration approved human implants in 2004. And how is that possible when I can trace this technology being in me all the way back to 1989? October 6, 2009, Science Daily. New research from the University of Southampton has demonstrated that it is possible to communicate from person to person through the power of thought with the help of electrodes, a computer, and an internet connection. Dr. Christopher James from the University Institute of Sound and Vibration Research says the aim was to expand the current limits of this technology and show that brain-to-brain communication is possible without the human being consciously aware of the communication taking place. 1/4/2010. The future of brain-controlled devices. Researchers are already using brain-computer interface to aid the disabled, treat diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and provide therapy for depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. Work is underway on devices that may eventually let you communicate with friends telepathically, give you superhuman hearing and vision, or even let you download data directly into your brain. Researchers are particularly giddy about that prospect. We don't know what the limits are yet, says Melody Moore Jackson, director of Georgia Tech University Brain Lab. One of the more controversial uses under development is telepathy. It would require at least 2 people to be implanted with electrodes that send and receive signals. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency is currently working on an initiative called Silent Talk, which would let soldiers on secret missions communicate with their thoughts alone. This stealth component is attractive, but naysayers fear that soldiers could become manipulated for evil means. Cochlear implants are the most common neuroprosthetic to help the brain interpret sound for the deaf. Other researchers are looking for similar ways to help blind people see. None of this comes cheap. Most research is funded by the deep pockets of the National Institute of Health, the government, the Defense Department, the government, and NASA, the government. That's your tax dollars. But every breakthrough brings the most advanced BCI technology closer to the mass market, Jackson says. She foresees a day when people with disabilities can spend a few $100s instead of $20,000 on a workable system. Mainstreaming technology raises some troubling issues for Dr. Kircher, who teaches a course at Emory in neuroethics. He fears that expensive eye and ear implants could produce a computer-enhanced elite. If only the rich can afford it, it puts everyone else at a disadvantage, says Kircher, who believes many aspects of VCR are ripe for abuse. Just the idea of mucking about in a person's brain raises questions of safety and efficiency. 3/30/2010, Popular Science Magazine. A magnetic field applied to the brain can alter people's sense of morality. MIT scientists have shown that they can alter our moral judgment simply by magnetically interfering with a certain part of the brain. Control subjects were able to evaluate the harmfulness and morality of characters' intentions, whereas those exposed to TMS made judgments based purely on outcome. Note, remember that secret military research as the undertaking of DARAP, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, is often years ahead of capabilities publicly acknowledged. The following information was evidence provided by a civil lawsuit against the federal government in the case of Akawi versus the National Security Agency. John St. Clair Akawi is a former National Security Agency employee who exposed the use of neuromonitoring to spy on individuals. Akawi states that two-way electromagnetic brain link is done by remotely monitoring audio-visual information while transmitting sound to the auditory cortex bypassing the ears, and transmitting faint images to the visual cortex bypassing the optic nerves and the eyes. The images appear as floating 2D screens in the brain. This is exactly what I've been going to the FBI, police, and doctors about for 10 years now. I'm a first-hand victim of what Mr. Kyle is talking about, and a first-hand participant using exactly that telepathic communication technology. Please go to ericgoddardblogspot.com. My phone number, my web page number is, my email is at the bottom of the page, and contact me after you've read the story. Thank you very much. Have a good day.